There is a moment that comes quietly, almost unnoticed, when a person realizes that the greatest burden they carry is not in their hands, not in their body, but in their mind. Thoughts appear endlessly, like waves that never stop reaching the shore. Some are gentle, some are heavy, and some seem to pull you into a deep current of negativity that feels impossible to escape. In the teachings of the Buddha, it is said that the mind, when left unobserved, becomes like a restless monkey, jumping from branch to branch, never finding peace. Negative thoughts are not enemies, yet they feel like intruders. They come uninvited, whispering stories of fear, doubt, regret, and imagined futures that have not yet happened. But there is a subtle truth hidden beneath this struggle. You are not the thoughts. You are the awareness that notices them. Imagine sitting by a river. Leaves float on the surface, carried by the current. Some are bright and light, others are dark and heavy. The river does not choose which leaves to carry, it simply flows. Your mind is that river, and your thoughts are the leaves. The problem begins when you jump into the water and try to grab every leaf, believing it belongs to you. The first step toward freedom is not to fight the current, but to step back and watch, to sit on the shore of your own awareness and allow thoughts to pass without clinging to them. There is an old Buddhist story about a man who was struck by an arrow. Instead of removing it, he began asking questions. Who shot it? What kind of wood it was made from? Why it happened to him? Meanwhile, the pain only grew stronger. The Buddha taught that negative thoughts are like that arrow. The suffering is not only in their presence, but in the way we engage with them. When a negative thought arises, notice how quickly the mind begins to build a story around it. One thought becomes 10, then 100. A small cloud becomes a storm. Yet if you pause, if you simply observe the first thought without feeding it, something remarkable happens. It dissolves on its own. Freedom does not come from controlling every thought. It comes from understanding their nature. They are temporary. They are not solid. They are not you. As you begin to observe your thoughts, a deeper layer of awareness starts to unfold. At first, it may feel uncomfortable. The mind resists stillness because it has been conditioned to move constantly. It believes that thinking is necessary for survival, that without it, something important will be lost. But in truth, much of what we call thinking is repetition. The same fears replayed in different forms, the same doubts wearing new masks. The mind creates loops, and within those loops, negativity finds a home. In Buddhist wisdom, this pattern is known as attachment. Not only attachment to people or things, but attachment to thoughts themselves. Even negative thoughts become familiar, and what is familiar feels strangely safe, even when it causes suffering. There is a second story often told in the teachings. A monk was insulted by a stranger. The stranger spoke harsh words, expecting anger in return, but the monk remained calm. When asked why he did not react, he replied that if someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong? In the same way, when a negative thought arises, it is like a gift being offered by the mind. If you do not accept it, if you do not identify with it, it has nowhere to stay. This does not mean you suppress the thought. Suppression creates tension. Instead, you allow it to be there, but you do not invite it to sit at your table. There is a quiet power in this approach. It is gentle, yet deeply transformative. You begin to see that thoughts lose their strength when they are not believed. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, space appears. In that space, there is calm. In that calm, there is clarity. And within that clarity, you begin to rediscover something that was always there beneath the noise of the mind. The deeper you go into this practice of observation, the more you begin to notice the subtle triggers that give rise to negative thoughts. They do not appear randomly. They are often rooted in past experiences, unhealed emotions, and deeply held beliefs about yourself and the world. In Buddhist understanding, this is part of the cycle of suffering. A thought arises, it connects to an emotion, the emotion strengthens the thought, and together they create a loop that feels real and unbreakable. But every loop has a point of interruption. That point is awareness. Imagine a candle in a dark room. The darkness cannot resist the light, it simply disappears in its presence. Awareness works in the same way. When you bring attention to a negative thought without judgment, you illuminate it, and in that light, it begins to lose its power. One of the most important realizations on this path is that resistance strengthens what you are trying to avoid. When you fight a thought, you give it energy. When you fear it, you make it grow. Instead, you learn to sit with it. You feel it fully without labeling it as good or bad. You allow it to move through you like a passing wind. This requires patience. It requires trust. But with practice, it becomes natural. There is a quiet courage in facing your own mind without turning away. And in that courage, transformation begins. You start to see that negativity is not something to eliminate, but something to understand. It is a signal, not a sentence. It points to areas within you that are asking for attention, compassion, and acceptance. When you meet your thoughts with kindness instead of resistance, they begin to soften. And as they soften, so do you. There comes a moment when you realize that the mind is not meant to be controlled, but understood. Control creates tension, while understanding creates freedom. This shift is subtle, yet it changes everything. In the practice of mindfulness, you learn to anchor yourself in the present moment. The breath becomes your guide. Each inhale brings you into the now. Each exhale releases what no longer needs to be held. Negative thoughts often live in the past or the future. They replay what has already happened or imagine what might go wrong. But in the present moment, there is often nothing to fear. Sit quietly and notice your breath. Feel the air as it enters and leaves your body. This simple act reconnects you with reality. It grounds you in something that is always available, always steady. The mind may wander. It will bring thoughts, images, memories. This is natural. Each time you notice that your attention has drifted, gently bring it back, not with frustration, but with patience. This is the practice, not perfection, but returning again and again. Over time, this returning becomes easier. The gap between thoughts becomes wider. The silence between them becomes deeper. And in that silence, you begin to experience a different kind of awareness. It is not filled with words or judgments. It is open, spacious, and calm. This is your true nature. It has always been there, waiting beneath the surface of constant thinking. Negative thoughts cannot survive in this space for long. They may appear, but they pass quickly, like clouds in a vast sky. You begin to trust that you do not need to chase them away. The sky does not chase the clouds. It simply allows them to move. And so do you. As your awareness deepens, you begin to notice how much of your suffering was created by identification. The moment you say, "This thought is me," it becomes heavy. It takes root. It begins to define your experience. But what happens when you change that relationship? Instead of saying, "I am anxious," you notice there is anxiety. Instead of saying, "I am not good enough," you see there is a thought saying, "I am not good enough." This small shift creates distance, and in that distance, there is freedom. You are no longer trapped inside the thought. You are observing it from a place of clarity. This is one of the central insights of Buddhist wisdom. The self you believe to be fixed and solid is actually a collection of changing experiences. Thoughts come and go. Emotions rise and fall. Sensations appear and disappear. nothing stays the same. When you see this directly, the grip of negative thinking begins to loosen. You no longer feel the need to hold on to every thought. You begin to let them pass naturally. There is also a deep compassion that arises in this process. You start to understand that your mind has been trying to protect you, even when it creates fear or doubt. It is not your enemy. It is simply conditioned. And what is conditioned can be transformed, not through force, but through awareness, not through struggle, but through understanding. This path is gentle, yet it requires consistency. It is like watering a plant. You do not see immediate results, but over time, something begins to grow. That something is peace. Peace is not the absence of thoughts, it is the absence of attachment to them. This distinction is essential. Many people believe to be free from negativity, they must stop thinking altogether. But the mind is not meant to be empty in that way. Instead, it becomes spacious. Thoughts can arise, but they no longer dominate your experience. They are like sounds in the distance, noticed but not overwhelming. One of the most powerful practices in Buddhism is loving awareness. It means meeting whatever arises in the mind with kindness. Even the darkest thoughts are not rejected. They are held gently, without judgment. This may seem difficult at first. How can you be kind to something that causes pain? But when you look closely, you see that the pain often comes from resistance. When you stop resisting, the experience changes. There is a softening, a release. You begin to trust that you can handle whatever appears in your mind. This trust is not based on control, but on presence. You know that no matter what thought arises, you can observe it without being consumed by it. This is true strength, not the strength to fight, but the strength to remain, to stay present, to stay aware, to stay open. And as you continue on this path, something beautiful begins to happen. The mind becomes less reactive. It no longer jumps to conclusions or creates unnecessary suffering. It becomes clear, still, like a calm lake reflecting the sky. At this stage, you begin to see life differently. Situations that once triggered strong negative reactions now pass with greater ease. This does not mean you become indifferent, it means you become balanced. You respond instead of reacting. You observe instead of judging. You allow instead of resisting. This shift is the essence of inner freedom. There is a profound simplicity in this way of living. You no longer need to analyze every thought or solve every problem immediately. You trust the natural flow of life. You trust yourself. Negative thoughts may still appear, but they no longer define your state of being. They are seen as temporary movements within a much larger awareness. And this awareness is stable, unshaken, peaceful. There is also a deeper understanding that emerges. You realize that trying to eliminate negativity forever is itself a form of resistance. Life includes all experiences, joy and sadness, clarity and confusion. The goal is not to remove one and keep the other. The goal is to remain present with both. When you accept this, a great weight is lifted. You stop fighting reality. You begin to move with it. And in that movement, there is harmony. A quiet, steady harmony that does not depend on external conditions. It comes from within. It has always been there, waiting to be recognized. And so, the journey of freeing yourself from negative thoughts is not a path of struggle, but a path of returning to awareness, returning to presence, returning to the quiet space within you that is untouched by the noise of the mind. Each moment offers a new beginning. Each breath is an invitation to come back. You do not need to wait for the perfect conditions. You do not need to become someone else. Everything you need is already within you. Be patient with yourself. Be gentle with your mind. Allow your thoughts to come and go like passing clouds. And remember that behind every cloud, the sky remains clear. If this message resonated with you, you can gently support this space by subscribing, leaving a like, and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Your presence here matters, and your journey is important. And for everyone who wishes to support the channel with a donation, the links are in the description and in the pinned comment. Thank you for being here, for taking this time for yourself, and for listening with an open heart.